All right, so now we're going to talk about different terms that you can use for the top line and back. Again, we're talking about smooth blending, things being clean, things being long. Since you want them to have a long through the neck, but you want them to be shorter in their back. More correctly turned over in the croup, tighter coupled. That's more of in the loin area. You want, as I had said before, you want their wither to be sharper and higher than their croup loin, the top part of their hindquarter. You want them to have a more correct tail set, level through the top line, so you don't want them to be sway backed, but you don't want them to have a hump like a roach back. You want them to be nice and even. Again, stronger, more horizontal, more naturally arching neck, so you don't want them to have so much of an arch to their neck like the ewe necks where they're like pinched, but you want them to be nice and smooth. You want them to tie high into the shoulder. You don't want their head and neck to be so low. Having more angulation to their shoulder, more functional of a neck. So you want functional meaning like they can move well with their neck. They have more of a crest to their neck. So that's your basic top line terms. Next, there's just a couple terms for like their middle area that are kind of like just random. So you want them to be deeper, have more depth to their heart girth, to their ribs, a deeper angulation, deeper slope to their shoulder, to their pastern. You want them to have more dimension to their shoulder, more longer, more sloping underline, meaning that you want the bottom of their stomach to be longer than their back. More capacious through the mid-assembly. That I think is a more outdated term, but basically meaning they have more space to their body cavity. They're larger, they're broader through the body. They have more width of design, being the same. Shorter, stronger back in relation to a longer, more sloping underline, more angulation to the shoulder. So there's a lot of terms for muscling. You want to describe your muscling as powerful, strong. There's more of it in certain areas. So you want more muscling in their hindquarter, in their stifle, in their gaskin. You want it more athletic appearing. You want it to be heavier throughout the forearm and the arm. You want just more, like when you're talking about more, most of these like muscling terms are more. So it's like more, that horse has more muscle than that horse. So it might be a smaller horse that has a lot of muscling compared to a big fat horse that has no muscling. So you'd want a horse that has more muscle rather than not enough, because form the function. If they don't have the muscles to perform, they can't. So you're talking with muscling, it's mainly volume, amounts, more or less, which area. Is it athletic? Is it not? Are they wider through the chest? Do they have a broader chest that allows them to move greater with their larger frame? Is their muscling thick and heavy? Is it uniform? Because again, when you're judging conformation, you're worried about balance. Do they have a greater circumference of muscle around certain spots? So their shoulders, their cannons, muscling. And then these are some more muscling things, muscling patterns at the top. They appear more three-dimensional. That's a popular one. They're V'd deeper in the lower 1/3 of their chest. That's the point where in the very front of them, when you look at them, they have that V shaped in the middle of their chest. Let me see if I can draw it. I think I can. Maybe not. Oh, yes I can. So here's your horse. They have their legs. And they want to be more deeper V'd in this section here. It just shows the prominency of like the muscling in their chest. That's what that expression means. They have more width. They have a bigger hind end, being more dimensional. So you don't want a horse that has a really buff big front end, but they're completely lacking muscle in the hind, because horses, when they're moving and performing, they're driving from their hind end. So their hind end should have lots of thick, powerful muscle. Wider from shoulder to shoulder and stifle to stifle. You want the horse to be broad and wide. You don't want them to be narrow and thin. More correctly carry the weight, have more bulge and ripple. So those are more muscling terms. Legs, some of these are good to use when you're talking about legs. Sometimes you want to use directly what the conformation fault is, but these are most like more of how to describe legs in a good way. So like I had said earlier, like strong, straight, calm of bone, that's like the most popular term for like accurate ideal legs. So you can talk about them being more chiseled at their hocks and their knees. You can have them being more defined at their joints, that their feet are cleaner, they have more slope to their pasterns that also corresponds with the angulation of their shoulders. They sit straighter in the rear than the other horse. They have a more correct column of bone. They are shorter and flatter in the cannons, so you don't want them to have super long, lanky cannons. You want them to be shorter. They stood and tracked on a wider base. The wider the better, but you don't want them to be too base wide, but you want them to be proportionately wide if their body is wide. They have a more proportional size of hoof. If you have a big horse, you want them to have a big hoof. You don't want a warm blood to have the hoof size of a pony, and you don't want the pony to have like a draft size foot. It's not accurate and it's not proportionate. Again, balance. They're more proportionate in the size of their knees and hocks. So kind of the same concept. You don't want a small horse to have huge knees and huge hocks. And you don't want a larger horse to have really tiny spindly legs. Stood on more steps into bone, was cleaner in the tendons, fewer deviations, had more support. Their cannons are more centrally located. So we had talked about horses that had bench legs or bench knees, where their cannon bones sit on the outside of their knees. You want the cannons to be as central as possible, right below the knee. Cannon bones nearly came out of the center of the knee, kind of the same concept. You want them to appear wider between the hocks when they're viewed from the rear. So you don't want their hocks to be pointed inward or pointed outward. You want them to be wide, but not like crooked. They're straighter. So you want to discuss how straight the legs are, how even the legs are, because again, crookedness. And here's some other miscellaneous terms when you're talking about movement. So often in these halter classes, you are walking and trotting the horses in hand. So that way you can show how their conformation affects their movement. So you want them to have a long stride. You want them to move freely and easy. You don't want them to be super stiff and jagged and look like they have a lot of trouble moving. You can talk about their striding being truer and more coordinated, that they travel with more coordination, that they were balanced in their movements, that their striding was efficient. So that a lot of times is more of an under saddle sort of term, but you can talk about how if it's like a hunter in hand, you can talk about how their long stride would allow them to cover more ground if they were riding. They travel less restraint, basically being more fluid, having more freedom, had less stride deviations. You're talking about maybe the horse tries to trip and stumble in the class because of the way that their feet are conformed. Moved on a wider, more correct base, tracked with more efficiency, provide more shoulder freedom. So you don't want them to be stiff in the shoulders. You want them to be able to reach out through their shoulder and move fluidly. Track truer and straighter, and walked away wider. And then some English terms. A lot of your English and saddle seat horses, sometimes when you're judging them in hand, a lot of times you have to look at the way they're moving. That's like, it's almost just as equal amount as the conformation. So you want to talk about how their knees flex and how they lift their legs and how things snap and how they're more animated. And when we look at the videos of like the saddlebreds that I have later in this presentation, you guys will see like how they're supposed to move. And that's like kind of just their breed characteristic. And also like with English horses, you want them to have more flexion because a lot of your English hunters are jumping hunters under saddle, and they're going in a hunt, or they're supposed to be going in a hunt field, going over fences. So you want them to be able to move so that way they can do those sort of movements and jumps and whatnot. Did someone ask a question in the chat? Is a saddleback horse the same as Western? So your saddlebreds are a breed of horse. Your saddle seat is a type of riding. It's more similar to English as opposed to Western, but it's a different kind of style of riding. The video of the saddlebreds that I'm going to show you is actually an under saddle class, so you'll be able to see like what saddle seat is, because I couldn't find an in-hand class for the saddlebreds, but it's not the same as Western. It's a little different. Hope that answers your question. So yeah, that's about it on terminology, I think. So let's judge some classes. So the stock type gelding class and the Arab class, they both have reasons, explanations, and they're both kind of long. So I might only show you guys part of them, so that way we can see all of them. So let me get out of this pen so I can click on the link. And we'll look at a stock type class. And this livestockjudging.com website, you guys can actually create accounts for and go in and judge some classes. They don't have a whole lot that are free, which stinks because they used to have a lot more. But they give you guys can guess the placings of the class, and then it gives you reasons. So I think for the sake of time, I'll show you guys all 4 horses together. So these are like your typical stock type horses. They're probably quarter horses. That one looks like a paint. So they're your bigger, chunkier kind of guys. So I'm gonna let the class play. I'll pause it every so often so that way you guys can look. Actually, hold on, I can make this bigger. You guys can look at the way their legs are. Are they straight? Are they even? Are they standing on an even base? Are they wide across the chest? So we're all going to kind of look at these horses. I'll play it twice. And then if you guys want to give me what you guys think you would place the class. 1 is here, 2 is here, 3, and 4. I'm going to play that one more time, and then if you guys want to give me what you guys think the horses placed,
If you haven't done horse judging before, this is what a contest looks like. See the kids all there taking notes and walking around? Those are the contestants. It's a bit easier to judge them in person, I think, than by video.
I agree. I feel like the more I watch the video, the more my mind has changed.
Yeah. I'm so bad at horse judging.
Okay. So what do you guys think that class should have been placed? Any ideas? Any takers? Just shout them out. Do you guys want to give my guess?
Can I give a guess? But like,
Yeah.
I'm not very confident in my guess.
It's okay. That's what practice is for.
Okay, so then I'm just gonna say it because why not? Like whatever. I'm trying. So I think I would go 4, and then like 3, 1, 2.
4, 3, 1, 2. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna write this down because I want. Caitlin, do you have a guess? Yes, no, maybe? I'm gonna give my guess. My guess is 2, 2, 3, 1, 4, I think it was. No, it was 2, 1, 3, 4. That's what I thought in my head. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna put Mintos in just to see, because it's gonna tell us what the actual placing was and what the cuts are. So that's like the cuts are how close each horse is in between each other, and it'll say what kind of score you would have got. So Mintos said 4, 3, 1, 2. Let me select and submit. And then it should give us reasons. So where? Oh, the reasons are on this side. Oh, okay. So the official placing was 4, 2, 3, 1. So Minta would have.
You got the first horse right there, Minta. Good.
Minta would have got a 43.
Wow, 43 out of 50.
Oh, that is good. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would have gotten 37.
Do you see the cuts at the top? Do you want to explain those, Erin, what those are?
Yeah, so the cuts, like I said before, are how close each horse is between each other. So the smaller the number, the closer the closer similarities the horses were. So like 4 was really close to 2, so that's why their cut is only 1 point deduction. 2 was kind of close to 3, so they have a 2-point difference. And then 3 was very off from 1, so they have a cut of 3. A lot of times your cuts are from like 1 to 4, but sometimes they vary. It depends on the class. If you have a horse that's like really, really off, it might be a cut of like your top horse is like the only good horse, so it's like 4, 1, 1, 1 if the other horses are close but bad.
So you'll get less points off if you mixed up. So if you said 2, 4, 3, 1 instead of 4, 2, 3, 1, your score wouldn't change all that much.
Yeah. So like the lowest one, The lowest score would have been if you placed the number 1 horse at the top and then your number 1 horse at the bottom. So that's her explanation. So we are going to go back into the PowerPoint and we're going to quickly watch the Arabs because they're a little bit different. And we're probably not going to watch their explanation.
Sorry, I have to go though. So
That's okay.
Thank you, Erin.
No, I will send this in the email and you'll be able to watch it.
Perfect. Okay.
Oh, it's buffering. Oh no. Hold on. Please work with me, Arabs. We're going to lower the quality so they'll load.
Remember, when you're looking at the side like this, you want to look at the slope of the shoulder. You want to look at their back. They have short back relative to the underline. You want to look and see if their legs are straight. So even if you just look at those 3 things, you'll be in pretty good shape.
Speeding it up a little bit.
Do you see this guy's legs here in the front, how they don't go straight down? He's a little bit camped under.
Mm-hmm.
That's very different, right? From a totally straight leg. Not a terrible thing. He probably functioned just fine.
And how this one has a very long back for an Arab.
This one has a very long back for anybody. Yeah. Front legs stand kind of close together, right? Back legs close together, a little bit cowhock maybe.
Or it could be that he's not set up properly, and sometimes when you have to like give your reasons, you have to say like if they were behaving well or if they were set up more properly, I would have been able to better judge them. But it's whatever you see in the moment. So if you say you place the class wrong because the judge noticed something different and you give your reasons, you're like, well, they were they weren't standing correctly, so I couldn't judge them to their best potential. Then they'll be like, oh, okay, so that's why you placed it that way.
And you see how he's standing? That's how they pose Arabs, with one leg parked out, you know, behind. So they're a little bit parked out with that one leg stuck out farther.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's also front legs are kind of closed. See, you can see the front legs through the back legs. Ideally, you like them lined up nicely together.
And when I judge, I take my pen when I'm writing my notes, and I like look at the pen directly behind the legs, and I can kind of tell if they're straight that way. And then I also try to make a 45-degree angle with my pen, like on their shoulder and on their pastern, to make sure that they're pretty even. So this one's going to tell us what we placed it, but I'm going to pause real fast because I think I had 1, 2, 4, 3. That was my guess.
Ooh, I have 1, 4, 2, 3.
4, 2, 3.
Remember,
Anyone?
I'm a terrible horse judge.
No, it's okay. Anyone else have any guesses?
I said 1, 3, 2, 4.
1, 3, 2, 4. All right. Now I think it'll tell us the cuts, but I don't think it's going to tell us the scores, just because the whole rest of the video is like them explaining why they placed it.
4,
1, 3, 2.
2. Okay, well, I mixed up both pairs.
2, 2, 3. I can actually calculate them later, but because there's the good old cut calculator. Actually, maybe I can. Nope, maybe I can't. But there's a way to calculate it. I'll calculate it later and let everybody know how they do. So we will look at. We have 10 minutes. So we're going to quickly look at the way Morgans move. And then I think saddlebreds, and then I think I have Pasafinos for funsies. And I think I also have a hunter and a hand class.
So Victoria, you're coming in with sort of a difficult kind of a lesson here.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So when we have our next meeting on the 22nd, we'll be doing stuff that isn't quite, doesn't have quite so many different facets here. We'll be doing hippology, things like stations and slides.
These are Morgans. They are your sort of gaited saddle seat horses, and they move with their legs. You want them to have a lot of flexion in their like shoulder and their forearm, so you want them to lift their legs pretty high when they're moving, but you also want them to be able to come underneath themselves with their hind end. So these are all like top Morgan horses. Like I think this was like a champion gelding class, except for that one's being very rowdy.
Yeah, really. And notice the much higher headset on these guys than on your stock horses, particularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a much higher.
Yeah. Carry their heads much higher. Their heads, necks tie into their shoulders very differently.
And their tails are higher.
Their tails are higher, much more like the Arabs are more like these guys. The stock horses are very different. Stock horses, you're looking for a different kind of headset. See how they park them out there like that, like the brown one up front? Wow, it's really hard. You can barely see anything to judge.
Yeah, this one was just a random class. I couldn't find like judging for any gaited horses, so I just wanted to kind of show the difference between all of them, just in case we have them.
Yeah, good.
So Morgans, and then next we'll do saddlebreds, which are kind of similar. This is an under saddle class. I couldn't find it in hand for them, but they kind of move the same way under saddle that they should move when they're moving in hand.
And you're not going to, like if you have saddlebreds and they're paddling out a bit or winging out, that's okay because of their movement. And that wouldn't be counted as a fault. You like to have that dramatic movement.
So they move even more dramatically than like the Morgans, and they really drive underneath themselves and really, really pick their heads up high and their legs up high and their tail sets high.
And yeah, and when you're judging them a movement, you really want to be talking about that.
Yeah, even
dramatic
for a
kind of-
confirmation class, you want to
Yeah.
talk about how well they move. Some of your gated breeds, when you're doing their in-hand confirmation classes, you almost want to talk more about how they move than their confirmation. At least that's what I learned when we did a crash course for nationals, is I think we had like 2 saddlebred classes we had to judge. 2 or 3,
How they
and none
get
of us
that-
had seen them before.
That leg goes up high there. All very, animated.
So those are your saddlebreds. We'll quickly do hunter in hand. These have some babies in their class.
No, 3 years and under. Here, what are we judging on? Are we judging on breed characteristics, Erin?
No.
No.
So hunters can be like any breed. So you're judging them more on like their athleticism and their muscling as opposed to what their breed is. Whereas like stock type, if they tell you that you have a quarter horse, you're judging for the quarter horse confirmation type.
But here you're looking for a good athlete. Oh, look at the baby.
The baby's cute.
Cute little leopard app.
But yeah, all these hunter horses, you want them to have a large ground covering stride. They need to be able to move from their hind end underneath themselves. They're athletic and they're muscling. Let me see if I can find a spot where they're all standing.
So you want a good slope to a shoulder here, like in everywhere else, because these guys really need to get their legs out in front of them as well. A lot of apps in this class.
Yeah, I think it was an app show.
Sponsored by Spotswood Stud, I bet it is. Wow, that's another leopard.
Yeah. So these are all your hunters. Let me see.
And they might be, a lot of them might be kind of big, because they might be warm bloods.
And then I'll quickly do the passos, and that is kind of the end of our little thing. While we're waiting for this to load, does anyone have any questions? You guys can just shout them out if you do, because I can see you now. I know it's a lot. It was a lot for me too. Oh, this one I have to skip ahead. Passos are different.
Sometimes, you just have to kind of go with your gut. These are 5- and 6-year-old stallions, and they often show them on the board so you can hear their feet. They're gaited horses, and you want to hear the different, the Passo Fino gait, the Passo Corto, the Passo Largo gait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just threw them in here because they're like a little bit different than the other gaited horses, even confirmation-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Because their head set isn't nearly as high, but it is. They don't have as high of a tail set, but they're also that more petite, and they're a little bit more fine-boned.
Yeah, they are more fine-boned. They usually aren't all that tall. They would be ponies in most cases. And you want to hear the tap, 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 tap. They often show them with the rider having a glass of wine in their hand, because they're such a smooth ride that you can, carry your drink and not spill it because they are so smooth.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you can even hear it in the video, the tap, 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 tap. And this is at normal speed.
I can't hear anything in the video.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And sometimes they do have that sort of almost a bit of a Roman nose. I think it's his forelock too in this guy, but they do sometimes have a little bit as opposed to a straight profile.
Yep, so that's about the gist of it. If nobody has any questions, we have a minute left. So that's basically the gist of showing in hand horses. It's a lot different than the riding. And it's a lot different if you don't know anything about horse judging.
Yeah, so, you know, your first part is looking at the horses and placing them. And most of the time, you're going to pretty much make your placement when you look at all 4 horses standing head to tail so that you can see the side of them. That's where you're going to pretty much make your, I think it's whatever it is. And then you're going to walk around and look at their feet, look at their legs, look at how they move and adjust, but you probably aren't going to change too much.
All right, well, we're going to be ending in about probably 30 seconds. So I will be sending this out in an email to everybody, and I hope you guys all learned a little something. And yeah, that's about it.
All right, thanks, Erin.
No problem.
Okay.
And I think next week we're going to meet on Saturday as opposed to Friday.
Okay.
Just because I have a lot of exams next week.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.